Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Western Canon Challenge, where we are reading the entirety of the Western literary canon out loud. Today we are continuing reading the poems of Trumbull Stickney, and with no further delay, I will go ahead and start with our first selection entitled, You Say Columbus with His Argosies. You say Columbus with his argosies, who rash and greedy took the screaming main, and vanished out before the hurricane into the sunset after merchandise, then under western palms with simple eyes, trafficked and robbed and triumphed home again? You say this is the glory of the brain, and human life no other use than this? I then do answering say to you, the line of wizards and of saviors, keeping trust in that which made them pensive and divine, passes before us like a cloud of dust. What were they? Actors, ill and mad with wine, and all their language babble and disgust. They say that Cleopatra, who of yore, They say that Cleopatra, who of yore received the moon on her dishevelled hair, looking into his eyes and breathed the fair, low wind along Mediterranean shore, when summer swelled the stars. Now at her door, the wanderer sees her like a jewel flare, and drawn by passion through the beating air, to her he falls, her dagger at the core. Through rifts and scudding shadow, while his trance blackens in death, he feels about him lean, her olive breasts and arms, and in her glance, great wings of fire, and midnight closing in. His wasting arms do not make a vain advance, so I unto the life I would have been. On Rodin's Illusion, the sister of Icarus. She started up from where the lizard lies, among the grasses' dewy hair, and flew through leagues of lower air, until the blue was thin and pale, and fair as echo is. Crying she made her upward flight, her cries were naught, and naught made answer to her view. The air lay in the light, and slowly grew, a marvel of white void in her eyes. She cried, her throat was dead. Deliriously she looked, and lo, the sun in master mirth glowed sharp, huge, cruel, then brake her noble eye. She fell, her white wings rocking down the abyss, a ghost of ecstasy, backward to earth, and shattered all her beauty in a kiss. And the last day being come, man stood alone. And the last day being come, man stood alone, ere sunrise on the world's dismantled verge, awaiting how from everywhere should urge the coming of the Lord. And behold, none did come, but indistinct from every realm of earth and air and water, growing more and louder, shriller, heavier, a roar up the dun atmosphere did overwhelm his ears. And as he looked affrighted round, every manner of beast innumerable, all through the shadows crying grew, until the wailing was like grass upon the ground. A sudden then, within his human side, their anguish, since the goad he wielded first, and, since he gave them not to drink, their thirst, darted compressed and vital, as he died. Lo, in the east now, lighting gorgeously, he saw the last sea-serpent Iris mailed, which with a spear transfixed, yet availed to pluck the sun down into the Dead Sea. A flower. As kneeling at a water's edge, into my heart when I look down, thy face uprising from the sedge, lies on the surface water blown. And while the current pushes rings about thy cheek, thy chin and brow, I muse and ponder many things, for who am I? Am I not thou? 'Tis therefore all these idle hours I spend alone, and none knows why. I see thee in the water flowers, upon the current doubtfully. A stone. With burning hands and eyes all dull, I bring to you this drop of fire, this topaz where the summerful of August afternoons expire. The stone you gave me long ago, a meteor from your life, it sought my lonely bosom and below lay glowing in the gloom of thought. From thence I took it pure and whole, to comfort me today, and found that from the waters of my soul these bands of gold have drawn around. This little setting's nervous art, slow formed but mighty, made to hold the sunshine visiting the dark, you darling that my arms enfold. Pardon. I dreamed that I was blind and you were mine, and for that I had spoiled your better part, did iron shame and frenzy pace my heart, like wolves, yet sweeter ne'er the sun did shine, the swaying flowers, the colours vespertine, and the strange quietude of human art. In my dead eyes I felt the water start, and falling down I prayed, if I am thine, that here within my shadow I am well, and live so in the nearness of thy soul. Forgive me that I linger in thy sight. Forgive that up the cliffs of heaven I stole, and at the brink seized thee, and with thee fell backward and down the oceans of the night. Service. Chide me not, darling, that I sing familiar thoughts and meters old. Nay, do not scold my spirit's childish uttering. I know not why 'tis that or this I murmur to you thus or so, only I know it throbs across my silences. It blows over my heart, a long infinite wind, again, 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 and then my life kneels down into a song. Fidelity. Nor lost or won, but above all endeavor, thy life like heaven circles around mine. Thy eyes, it seems, upon my eyes did shine, since forever. For aught he summon up his earliest hour, no man remembers the surprise of day, for where he saw with virgin wonder play the first flower. And o'er the imagination's last horizon, no brain has leaning descried nothing more. Still there are stars, and in the night before, more have arisen. Not won or lost is unto thee my being. Our eyes were always so together met. If mine should close, if ever thine forget, time is dying. When by and by relenting you regret. When by and by relenting you regret all of these possible and vanished hours, and rolling up the certain tempest scours your sky where not another star will set, when all before your eyes, no longer wet by life's memorial paths and fading bowers, shrivels the remnant of 1,000 flowers. Do not forget, I say, do not forget the long and lonely hours I burned away. The lonely days in pity do recall what miles of solitude I suffered o'er. It need not so have been, but you did say it should be so, and I replied it shall. And lo, it is for evermore. Loneliness. These autumn gardens, russet, grey, and brown, the sward with shriveled foliage strown, the shrubs and trees, by weary wings of sunshine overflown, and timid silences. Since first you, darling, called my spirit yours, seem happy, and the gladness pours from day to day, and yesteryear across this year endures, until next year away. Now in these places where I used to rove, and give the dropping leaves my love, and weep to them, they seem to fall divinely from above, like to a diadem. Closing in one with disheartened flowers, high up the migrant birds in showers shine in the sky, and all the movement of the natural hours turns into melody. As pilgrims when the ways of winter ope. As pilgrims when the ways of winter ope would fain behold the places where they prayed, alive with violets and new with shade, and where they knelt a golden buttercup. So strains within my soul a wandering hope to see how brightly now are rearrayed the stations where I saw her, and afraid my kneeling life was lost and carried up, a thing that in the praise of vanishing did like an incense for a moment's space, burning itself away from what it was, outsoar the elevation and outsing the choirs of glory, while the fragrant wing it veiling past before Madonna's face. Quiet after the rain of morning. Quiet after the rain of morning, midday covers the dampened trees. Sweet and fresh in the languid breeze, still returning, birds are twittering at ease. And to me in the far and foreign land, as further I go and come, sweetly over the wearisome, endless barren, flutter whisperings of home. There between the two hillocks lightens, straight and little a bluish bar, I feel the strain of the mariner, grows and tightens after home and after her. Spirits that might have been. Spirits that might have been, ye birds and butterflies under the showers, why will ye ever lean your weft of music and of irises on my plain flowers? Come here, I pray, no more, or for a little while let me alone. More honeys at the core of the blue thyme and little chamomile there further on. The sky is still and blue, but changing in your flight, flushes and sings. Then do I crimson too, and humming gladly, suffer all the night your absent wings. Music. The air breaks into flutters low and sweet, smooth as the liquid passage of the bird, and as the ocean murmur, faintly heard, before the storm its rippling echoes beat, the ear, but then with swifter, bolder feet, the message comes. The music stirs the heart to wild pulsations until every part is glowing, fervid with the throbbing heat. Slowly the memories of the past then rise in pallid glory, richer streams of sound, wild with the mysterious truth, all cloud-like roll about the heart and flood with tears the eyes. But then a silence stern, abrupt, profound. A vaster echo trembles in the soul. Night. Great night, no soothing friend to pain thou art, whereto a stricken soul may pour its grief. To thee these human sorrows be too brief to wake the pulse of thine eternal heart. Thy powers are dead, and sterner peace impart the silences of thy vast eloquence. Our reason fails, our minds succumb too tense to act, ourselves grow fragile part by part. So when thy pale infinitudes unfold their vastness and the eternal harmonies, threading the labyrinthine paths of gold, break on the vision with a sudden sting, the soul is loosed, and in the boundless skies a dazzling light uprises on her wing. This is the nursling of 100 years. This is the nursling of 100 years. Save this the horny cactus cannot bloom, that heeds not if the violets shed perfume, the roses blow, the August swell the ears of corn, or the dull wintry silence nears. But ah, how shorn is all the garden room of beauty, flowers and shrubbery dropped in gloom, the fountain lost in everlasting tears. Thou, stranger, art too late for home, though time and hope conspired to give thee life. And shalt thou live where through the sultry air death reigns and all the malignant harms are rife? Or shall thy trust not rather be a snare to lure the tardy beauty to its doom? Though moored along the quiet quay on some, Though moored along the quiet quay on some errand of commerce bent, she rides at rest, her title half obliterate at the crest, speaks the soft language of a distant home. Her time shall be, and she invite the foam about her prow, the winds to blow the west open, and all her hopes move forward blessed, and favored neath the heaven's unclouded dome. So whilst this life of duties we discharge, chained to the moorings of a mortal thought, the inspiring evening calls us from the marge. Hail, star and wind and current, sunset, hail! Away, for firmly here the helm is caught, and the new moon hangs in the homeward sail. 'Twas yet an hour to dawn, revengeful storm. 'Twas yet an hour to dawn, revengeful storm, tortured the Aegean air. The sea was high, and things of mist and water without form rose, ran, were lost. The darkness swelled with cry. Then greatly heard, mid all that night's alarms, most hideous was a sound of cities torn, of glory strangled in an ocean's arms, of death. The tempest sped, and it was morn. From high Olearos, looking forth alone, the sculptor saw a sea with isles empearled, but not yon island of the golden stone. Paros was sunk, a calm lay on the world. His frightened lip grew calm, he looked around. Never shone day more marvelous, but he swore to his heart an oath that had no sound, darkly, and cast his chisel to the sea. Cologne Cathedral. O earth, this is not earthly, nor of stone, nor did thy bowels yield the stuff that made the pale grey roof whereunder light and shade move undiurnal to the greater sun. Prayer carved the sable flowers, a coral spun, rose windows in the aisle, and music stayed so silken long by arch and colonnade, that the lines trembled out and followed on. 'Tis here philosopher and peasant sings, in pauses of the mind, when thought and faith, the I and thou are bubbles of the breath, from on the citadel of human things, sheer to God's sky and life rather than death, the serfs with quiet eyes watch with the kings. When by you lies my broken heart and I. When by you lies my broken heart, and I, up on the hill where of this world is heard, at most the love note of a vernal bird, and breaking leaves that flutter in the sky, when nothing more of all this agony and strange disease that in our bodies stirred is left, and with mine ashes are interred, my hope and name and all that I might be. If then one said it differed not to live or not to live, since living all is death, and seeing then beyond the yews and groves the fading fragments that our years did give, should say it were better never to feel breath, I answer no, for life is less than love. If in the night and madness of thy mind, if, in the night and madness of thy mind, the tearing storm appear to thee a thing lit sharply with thy fate and suffering, a cause, a god above the screaming wind, or when the sunlight infinitely kind moves the meadow and mountain land to sing, thou seem to see the glister of a wing. Know it is nothing, and thy eyeballs blind. Remember all this little humor of despair wrongs the rich summer-time when summer is, and even so thy subtle ecstasies, the winter hurricane and awful air. Fall down upon thy knees and lift thy eyes, that all things are forever as they were. Henceforward I no longer shall be known. Henceforward I no longer shall be known among you all with whom I strove to dwell, for all our loves were wholly pitiable. I was a stranger, you were not my own. And over all I was, I ring a knell, as a broad blasted landscape at sundown. I would not have the flames break from my frown against you. I will go away. Farewell. Not as the Spaniard and his argosies who ran greedily through the screaming sea into the sunset after enterprise, but with dispassionate and quiet eyes, watching my destiny depart from me, like flushes in lotus after sunrise. This is the end of Part 3 of the poems of Trumbull Stickney. Thank you for listening.